Hey guys, I was thinking of going to a carnival this weekend.
Oh yeah, that sounds fun. I heard they added a new Ferris wheel.
Yeah, but what are Ferris wheels?
How do you not know what a Ferris wheel is? I love Ferris wheels, but not in that weird way.
But seriously, how do Ferris wheels work?
Okay, fine, I'll show you.
So a Ferris wheel is a giant circle attached to a base. The base is where people get onto the Ferris wheel. And at this carnival, the base of the Ferris wheel is 1 meter. The diameter of the Ferris wheel is 24 meters, which means it has a radius of 12 meters. The total height of this Ferris wheel is 25 meters because of the base in addition to the diameter of the Ferris wheel. Let's use an example of Jim he gets onto the ride from the base, and then from there, it takes him 2 minutes to get around the circle. So if Jim is right here, then that means that as he goes around the circle, once he reaches a quarter of the way, it's going to be 30 seconds. Once he reaches the top of the Ferris wheel, it's going to be 60 seconds. Once he reaches over here at the left side of the Ferris wheel, it's going to be 90 seconds. And once he comes all the way back to where he started, it's going to be 120 seconds. The max of the Ferris wheel is at 25 meters, and that's at the top of the Ferris wheel. The min of the Ferris wheel is at 1 meter. That's because that's where the Ferris wheel starts and the base ends. The axis of the Ferris wheel is in between those two, so that's at 13 meters, and that's at the center of the Ferris wheel. And that's equally 12 meters away from the max. So here you can see our given in the top right corner. The x-axis is now in t, and that's for the time it takes to complete a period, or that's in seconds, so it goes all the way up to 360 seconds. Our height is our y-axis, and that goes up to explaining how tall the Ferris wheel is. So now I'm going to plot each point, so the minimum, the axis, the maximum, the minimum, and so on until I get to the end of the graph. The minimum is 1, the maximum is 25, and the axis is 13, as we said before when we were doing our equations. So this is going to repeat every 120 seconds because that's the period, and yeah, so.
To get the amplitude, you first get your max minus your min divided by 2, which looks like 25, which is the max, minus the minimum, which is 1, divided by 2. Once you do that, it's 24 over 2, which becomes 12 meters. To get your axis, you first get your max plus your min divided by 2, which is 25 plus 1 over 2, which turns into 26 over 2, and finally gives you y is equal to 13. To get your k value, you first have to do 360 over your period equal to your k. So your period is 360 over 120 equal to k, which is essentially 3 equals to k.
So do you understand this?
Yeah, but is there supposed to be an equation for the graph?
Oh yeah, true. I'll show you that now.
So to do the equation, we do h at t is equal to a cos bracket k bracket t minus p bracket plus y, where the a is the amplitude, so we're going to plug in 12. 3 is the k value, because that's the 360 divided by the period. T is the time in seconds, according to the graph. And p is the horizontal shift. Plus 13 is the vertical shift, and that's where the axis is. So if we see this graph, we can see that it starts at a minimum, and that's the opposite of what cos usually starts at, which is the maximum. So that means that we can put the inverse of 12, or not the inverse, but negative 12, and that'll mean that this negative 12 means that the graph is now flipped along the vertical, or reflected along the vertical axis, and that means that it starts at a minimum. So our final equation would be negative 12 cos bracket 3t plus 13, where negative 12 is the amplitude and the negative is the reflection. 3 is the k value, and that's the period, or the 360 degrees divided by the period, and the 13 is the vertical shift in the also the axis.
Alright, so now I got some questions for you guys. You guys ready?
Yep.
Alright, so your first question is, where would you be after going 2/4 of the period after starting at the beginning of the position?
You would be at your max because that's half your period.
And that's 25 meters.
That's correct. Second question, what does the amplitude represent?
The amplitude represents the radius of our Ferris wheel, which is 12 meters.
That is correct, sir. Third question, what would be the restrictions on this graph?
It can't be negative because you can't have negative height or time. So both x and y or t and h will be positive.
That's correct, sir.
Oh, good.